Hey, AfterBuzzers, we are here for the Season 4 finale of Orange is the New Black. Toast can't never be bread again.
You're tuning into the destination for TV superfan discussion, AfterBuzz TV. And now, let the buzz begin.
Animals, trap, 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 till the cage is full. The cage is full, the day is new, and everyone's waiting, waiting on you, and you've got time.
I think last episode we had to go.
We had to go all out. And also, if Brandy Bachelor on Twitter, at Brandy Bachelor, I don't know how you did today, but see if you beat my challenge there of holding that note longer. Thank you for following us this season.
I think I can beat you, and then I never do.
Kind of felt like I was going to pass out that time. But
We did it one last time for the season. And before we get started, I'm Scott Moore. You can find me on the Twitter at SMan80. That's SMan80. And to my left,
I'm Kanika Lal. Follow me on Twitter at Kanika Lal.
Hey guys, I'm Sterling Cates, and you can find me at Sterling Cates.
Hey y'all, I'm April Whisenhant. You can find me everywhere at April Whisenhant.
Woohoo! I know, can you believe it, ladies? It's the season finale already.
Here.
Yeah.
Already here.
And it was a good one.
Oh yeah.
Such a sad one.
It was.
I was gonna say. There were a few tears shed. I will say
Yep, me
that.
too.
It was a humdinger. No, what was your overall thoughts of this as a season finale? How did you feel with it?
I loved that they gave Poussey her time. For
Yeah.
sure.
I was just say, gave her a send off.
Yep.
Yeah.
But
it was a beautiful send off.
Yep.
It definitely was like the big stuff happened in the last episode, which is how it works with a lot of
Right.
shows. Like they make the penultimate episode
Right.
like that episode so that you can
Yes.
kind of have a little bit of closure.
Mm-hmm.
And it definitely, like you were so right. You said last week, like thank God we have another episode, so we're not just left with that. It definitely made me feel. I don't want to say okay because I'm not okay with Poussey dying, but it made me feel like I got a little bit of something.
Without fail, this show always leaves me frustrated that I have to wait a year
Yeah.
to just see what happens, especially with Daya at the end there. So
I know.
Yeah, I mean, I felt like this one left more of kind of like you were saying with the penultimate episode, but I kind of felt like this left the season more open than in seasons past because usually they've like tied it all up with a nice little bow and we get rid of one villain and we move on to like the new season. But this particular season just felt like there were a lot of questions still there and it's just going to be a to be continued. So yes, there was definitely that sense of, okay, we gave Poussey the proper like send off and we got to have a follow up instead of just have, because that would have been horrible, like you said, if that was the way we ended the season. But we also still now have a lot of questions that have been left unanswered and now are going to be kind of held over to next season now, which to me is kind of a new twist on what they've done in the past.
I agree with all of your guys' points, and the only thing I have to add to that is this was the first time I was literally screaming at my laptop screen. Like when Daya literally held the gun, which we'll talk about, I was like, what's going down?
No,
like
she
it got
didn't.
me so heated up,
Yeah.
So that's the overall emotion.
And it wasn't even that last scene, it was the last shot of Poussey that like just did me in. So.
Just her smiling directly at the camera.
Yep.
With
I
her
did
little
tear up.
smile, that's the part where I was like, oh, I made it through.
Right.
I'm good, I'm alive. And then that last little shot of Poussey just really did me in.
Yeah, that was definitely that was tough. And we the good thing about this episode is we kind of open and close with her.
Yeah.
Because we open up with this backstory with her and her friends on the bus getting ready for a night out in New York. And to me, I mean, what her whole night there was sort of a quintessential only New York kind of thing. And but it was just beautiful. It was just this whole night with her. And I just, it makes me almost tear up thinking about it.
Well,
because
it just showed like how naive she was, but also like, I mean, she was selling weed, but like she was relatively innocent. She like had her whole life ahead of her.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Just excited about going to concerts and you know, and that was one of the best nights of her life.
Yeah.
But it was just, I mean, you can tell even just from her backstory, she's not a criminal. You know what I mean? Like she's not a terrible person.
No, she's a smart.
She was very smart and
halfway through the flashback, it felt kind of not ominous, but when well, I'm sure we'll go into more depth, but I saw it more like, I'm sure it's not, but there was hints of it being an afterlife too. Like you could definitely interpret it that way. Like she was kind of reborn again, starting anew and just kind of experiencing the city with very naive eyes, like you said, really innocent eyes, like a baby would.
Yeah. So. It also just made like the cutting back to the prison that much more dark and depressing for me, because this amazing person that we're seeing in New York is just still on the cafeteria floor, and to see that that's how she's treated and not as a human, even after her death, was just like, for me, that made the two storylines that we were watching like even that much more like jarring.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Someone in our comments from last week pointed out how, you know, we were wondering like, Baxter's or Bailey's backstory was like kind of random, but they pointed out how they did it because it's like a juxtaposition of their lives were like pretty similar. We see in the finale run into or walk past each other on the sidewalk. And it was showing that like how they were ultimately kind of doing the same things, but look at where she ended up and look at where he ended up.
Because of positions of power. And
exactly.
And the stuff that we've talked about too is just the fact that they aren't really any better than
exactly.
You know, the COs aren't any better than the
prisoners.
women. They're just who was caught in, like you said, in the power scheme and the power struggle. But I kind of agree with what you said too. It kind of did feel almost like an afterlife kind of feeling, because it was very dreamlike. You know, that whole night of her just running into all these different people and doing these just very fun,
it all
unusual
went well
stuff. You know, like going in that. You know, just those random happenstance.
I would never go on a bicycle with a monk. I don't think I'd end up safe.
I think that's a really great point, because these situations that she found herself in where, you know, typically we would probably be a little more standoffish or a little more suspicious, but she kind of just dove right into that, again, maybe with being a little naive, but also just with an open heart. And everything worked out well. You know what I mean? Like, I probably wouldn't get on the front of that bike. I probably wouldn't go to a random club that I didn't know anyone or have like any sort of phone.
That club though was
you know,
really
that
I would go there.
I would too.
But we'd be a little more like suspicious.
But no, but at first,
it just
I
like
had to know
shows
about
the
it,
good in people that, you know,
Yeah.
you necessarily wouldn't be like, oh, this is going to be a good person and
No,
this will end well.
Yes.
It's true. Although maybe it's just a different perspective. Maybe at that point when I was younger, I would have maybe done some of those things.
True.
Because to me,
Yeah,
New York,
true.
it kind of encapsulated that. And I've had similar nights like that. Nothing quite to that amazingness, but still, it's like that felt very... Like you could have that happen when your night you thought was going to be ruined, and you just turn the corner and you know, show up at some random club, or the monks on the bikes. And I thought it really was beautiful. And I even put in my notes just the visuals of it, like in the club, everything was just so beautiful. And the monks on the bikes with the colored lights and the spokes, and everything about it was just very dreamlike and kind of what you were saying. And
even her on the subway when she was experiencing
even the subway, exactly, with
I
all the
loved
different
that.
people.
That was actually,
Yeah, and just kind of that whole vibe and everything, and it just was really, I felt a really great send-off for her.
Yes.
And just kind of learning even just that last little detail about her and this incredible one night that she had, and it was just beautiful. And then, like you said, then we go back to what's going on in the prison, and it just feels cold and very just awful. I mean, the whole situation there is just between the power struggle going on, and obviously the way they've treated her, and we do kind of see that that Caputo again is having that good side. Every time when I start thinking about him, he always comes back and does something good again.
Well, he did do something good, and he, even with Piscatella, by shutting him down and sending him home, and, you know, he did have some sort of moral compass in this episode, but at the same time, he didn't call Poussey's dad right away, and then he did later, but he also never, like, brought up her name in the press conference, and, like, he definitely protected Bailey over...
Right. Yeah. Well, I was
gonna
say.
What I mean? So it was like I loved in the whole entire episode. I did, and I loved that he like cared.
Right.
Whereas everyone else didn't show any signs of caring. But like for me, he didn't pull through like when you needed, unless he has something that he's gonna do later. Yeah. I don't know.
Well, that's the part that's kind of confusing to me, in the sense that, I mean, it's like ultimately what does he do? Like he has to protect himself. Like he wants to keep his job, sure. and then he doesn't, I mean, okay, Poussey's dead, but he's not gonna, you know, disrespect her in a way and say like, oh, she had a knife, or what, like how everyone else was saying. But then he also wants to protect Bailey, so it's almost like what could he have done in that situation other than just like flat out be like, this is what happened, da da da. But then he's gonna mess things up for himself.
Right.
So,
well, I mean, why do you think that he did delay calling her father for so long? Because I did think that was odd too. Do you think he was nervous, or there was anything behind like actually having to confront her dad and didn't want to?
I think confrontation. That's the only thing I would
confrontation, but he also didn't know what the story was yet. Even though he wasn't on board with having a story.
Exactly.
He still hadn't heard from MCC. He I think he was waiting to be told what to do.
Yeah.
But even when he kind of knew the story, at least knew enough to go with it, it still felt like it was too long, and I did feel like, why did he wait that long? And it was just
also,
that fear.
It was way too
telling
long.
him.
Also embarrassment too, because I think she was still lying in the cafeteria floor.
Yeah.
He fell asleep when he knew that.
I think
that's what I was wondering too. Like if there was fear,
I think he's
embarrassment,
just like,
there was.
I haven't cleaned this
something.
up yet. I haven't solved it yet. I can't even call. I can't think of the father. But that's obviously the first person to call your parents. But it's hard.
And the fact that he waited right before the press conference, but then in my head I was like, oh, he's gonna tell him before he finds out on the news.
Right.
But then he didn't even say Poussey's name in the press conference. So it's like, you know what I mean? Not that I think he should have called him immediately. But.
And someone like Aleda needs to know.
Yeah.
Right.
It could have been her daughter.
It could have been her daughter.
You know?
And I also.
You probably can't say the name though.
Well, that's what I was wondering. I thought maybe
is it
there
like
was
confidentiality.
maybe there was a reason why he didn't, and it was one of those things like you always read in the paper, something like waiting to notify family or waiting for whatever the case is. So I wasn't totally surprised he didn't actually say her name, even though obviously that upset Tasty, and I can understand that. But I wasn't as surprised by the lack of him calling her father sooner. That's the only part that kind of threw me off, because he just felt like the only one that really legitimately cared compared to everyone else.
And at that point, Tasty probably has boiled up so much emotion inside of her because she's overlooking how everyone's not treating her right. So that probably him not mentioning her name just triggered it.
Yeah,
otherwise, maybe she wouldn't have gotten that upset. Because at first, I was a little like questioning, why is she getting so upset? I did think at first he should have mentioned the name, but then I thought about it later.
I can understand why she'd be
a victim.
Yeah, I think I can understand where she was coming from, because she felt like now it was turned around and he was sort of like the victim, and also the fact that she was nameless and she cared about her so much and felt like, here's the situation, now she's being left nameless like she was nothing, and bringing up a lot of issues that are going on now.
Definitely.
With Black Lives Matter and stuff. I think for her it felt like, oh, she's not as important, and now we're protecting the guard and those in power, compared to leaving her nameless.
I mean, I'd be frustrated too, seeing all of these injustices that are happening around you, and then when it
and
obviously
feeling
is
powerless
that personal,
about it. Yeah.
And then, I mean, from an outsider with an investigation going on and all that stuff, it's probably logistics.
Yeah.
But
I think she was upset though, because not that he definitely didn't make it seem like Poussey's fault whatsoever.
No.
But he didn't say like this was done to her.
Right.
I don't know. So it almost made it seem like, oh, whoops, we're only protecting the guard and not really referencing that whatsoever. Even like not saying her name out there. It just kind of didn't make it seem like she was
that she was valuable,
part of
and
it.
that she was a part of anything, and that she was just left as a nameless.
Which is also why her and Janae got so upset when people would say, I'm sorry for your loss. Because it does sound like what Tasty said, like her grandmother passed away.
Well, it sounds like patronizing in a way, even though you're not trying to be like not condescending, but it's sort of like, oh yeah,
it almost demeans or belittles what actually happened, an injustice. So I think that's also what got her.
The seriousness of what happened compared to, like you said, oh, I'm sorry for your loss, like my 95-year-old grandmother passed away, and you're like, oh yeah, that's too bad.
I want to know what it is that Caputo found out about Piscatella.
Yeah.
When he was like, I did some digging. Like, you came from Men's Max.
Right.
But I want to know what it was.
It has to be something bad, because he's like, there's a reason why you're here, and Piscatella's just like.
And he has that over Piscatella now.
Yeah.
Well, maybe
he had nothing against him.
Maybe he like slept with some
I was gonna
guard
say,
or some guy, because we were talking about, they were like,
say,
like some kind of weird, but it's probably even like darker than that.
Yeah, he did make a point of saying
harassment.
the Men's Max, and they have made a point over and over again that he is gay.
Right.
So it's like could have been
so like
there.
did he have some kind of
cookie.
Yeah. No, that's what I kept thinking was sexual harassment with some guard, and then I was like, oh, that's or
a
prisoner. I mean, some prisoner in Max. I'm like, oh, that's kind of boring, but
could have been
maybe.
But it's more
with everything we've seen.
It's more like scandalous than everything we've even seen with, Mustache and Daya a while back. Because that was just so like,
Speaking of, where's Bennett? We didn't see him.
Right?
I know. I actually have that of
sworn.
all my questions at the end of like sort of the people that we were left hanging again still at the
Yeah.
end of the season, and he was on there too. So definitely we'll get to that. Like that.
Yeah.
That was just weird. It's sort of like
That was like my first thought when I saw her with the gun. I was like,
yeah.
no.
Yeah.
She's probably also pointing out at Bennett.
Bennett,
like
too.
in
Yeah,
her mind.
yeah.
Like, why'd you
Anger.
leave me
Yeah.
after you
I would
Yeah.
be doing that.
No, I have a whole list that I was definitely wanting to go through of not only this season but
Questions
like,
we haven't answered,
Wait,
yeah.
they kind of left all these people just in sort of these things just
In
kind of left
limbo,
hanging
yeah.
there,
Yep.
you know. And there's a lot of stuff
Yeah.
that we went through and then nothing. So I mean, it's just a messy situation right now, and again, it really wasn't resolved. This wasn't really resolved either at the end of this episode. So
I just don't understand why they had to leave her body in the cafeteria for so long. Like, I get because they, couldn't call the cops, but I'm like, y'all are the freaking cops,
Right.
basically.
Yeah, I
like,
know.
what in the world? And it just, to me, it seems like they would get in more trouble for just leaving the body there, like starting to, whatever.
Decompose.
Yeah.
Then
well, I
don't
mean,
know.
Yes, I get it, but I also am like, well, sort of is a crime scene, like they do mention, and so you're not moving the body per se until they get there. But at the same time, you're right. It's like, aren't they there? Couldn't they do something to just get it out of such a main area? I mean, that was just kind of the odd thing when the women have to go in and eat. That's where they eat, and that's where they congregate, and you're just kind of leaving it there for that period of time. And I mean, geez, that whole thing was so messy, especially with the MCC and the Josh,
Yeah.
this whole press thing, trying to come up with the whole spin and the angles, and it just felt very. It's again stuff that really happens, but it just felt so desensitized to where now it's just a story. Now we have to spin it in a certain way to make sure.
it makes me wonder how often that does happen.
Right.
Yeah,
Because
exactly.
you can't, I mean, I'm sure, different prisons or like the government constantly, we know, covers stuff up to make it look better for ourselves. But it's like, how often does that really happen in the sense? I mean, I'm sure all the time, and we have no idea.
yeah.
I mean, of course, and just think about the political world anyway. It's
Yeah.
like all these things that happen on a daily basis that are spun, and you have people that are paid tons of money just to make sure things are done in the right way.
Yeah.
And I bet
the
they
right
pay
way.
Olivia
people like
Pope's
to
of
keep
the world.
quiet.
Of course.
Yeah.
But yeah,
And
absolutely.
it was even more upsetting just to know what happened and to see these guys try to make a villain out of Poussey and
Right.
like, oh, even her mugshot's adorable or whatever it was, like trying to make this person who we're seeing in this New York
Right.
storyline who is so awesome, and then you know what I mean, and
Well,
it's just, it was
it
really
goes back
disheartening.
to even with Linda and sort of this thing where there's a separation.
Who entered the prison?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there-
finally.
exactly. There's
But
a
hid in the
separation.
stall.
But hid in the
I love
bathroom,
that scene,
right?
actually. That was hilarious.
I thought she was about to get shanked.
Yeah, I did too.
I thought she was.
I know.
Yeah.
She deserves
And then
it,
she
though. I know it's
notices
horrible to say, but-
Caputo's bite marks on his ears.
Yeah,
so
she got a little bit
obviously got a little
jealous.
something
I was
with
like,
it.
what was that going on? I'm like,
Yeah.
okay.
They used to get
Dang
freaky
fig.
out.
Yeah.
They did get her.
Yeah, I
I
mean,
mean-
he has bite marks.
Yeah, I was like, okay, but I mean, even though it was so absurd with the whole Josh and the press thing, it was also it was absurdly funny too, because like, oh, make sure you're not shiny, because then it makes you look
Right.
nervous and
Yeah.
hiding the truth, and oh, no caffeine, it makes you too jittery for the press conference. You want to see like you're in control. Like it was so ridiculous, but yet it was funny because that stuff does happen in less intense situations where people are being prepped and how to behave and how to act and what things to say and what things you're not going to say, and it was just
It was
pretty crazy.
Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead. You first.
I was going to say, it's just interesting to see how all the guards reacted differently. Like, Luschek he was concerned about his coffee the whole time. You know what I mean? Like, how everyone responded, and Humps brought the gun in, and then the
Yeah.
one guy, like, tried to fight him on it a little bit. You know what I mean? Like, everyone pretty much responded differently. And the
Yeah.
girl guard, what's her name?
What is
Oh,
her
could
name?
never-
Is it Solomon? No.
No, not
Is it
Mc-
McCullough?
McCullough, yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, McDonald,
And
that's
she
the
was
guard.
like
That's the-
nervous, like because when
Yeah.
she didn't want to be left alone
Yeah.
with Poussey's body and all
Yeah.
that stuff, you know what I mean? But so it was very interesting. And then some of them were saying that Poussey had a shiv on her or whatever.
Right.
So
Yeah.
like it was just interesting to me to see how they all reacted differently after.
And also sort of how that rumor mill gets spun up
Yeah.
too. Sort of like we were saying with the press spin, you also have the rumor spin, and you get all the people coming up with all these crazy theories by the next day that weren't necessarily right there. But yeah, I mean, Loose Checks was the funniest, of course, because he's like, oh, the flavored coffees for those women in the knitting, what was it, in the scrapbooking club.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that cracked me up. Like they only put flavored coffee for those people.
I was like,
And to
really?
add
Are you
on-
kidding me right now? No shot with the coffee.
But we sometimes need like
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
comedic.
I think they actually
Right.
appropriately had a lot of good comedic
Yes.
relief
Yeah.
at times, and you wouldn't think, how do they do that?
Yeah.
But it really did give relief. And to add to what you said, I think also the prisoners, the inmates, reacted to this so much to their character.
Yeah.
Like Red, she would be reading a book
Yep.
to her group,
And protecting her group.
Crazy
Right.
Eyes would go crazy,
Crazy.
And try to feel suffocation.
Mhm.
And I also liked how Piper, I mean, we've totally seen her transform from
Yeah.
being lunatic to now being a voice of reason to
Yeah.
everyone, to
Right.
Bailey, to Alex. So I was actually proud of her.
Yeah, she was
Yeah.
sort of back to that normal Piper that we knew, but now
Yeah.
it's more. I don't want to say comfortable, but more in the space of where she's at now, in a better space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. It happened kind of quick though. so.
Something that so I after I watched the finale, I rewatched like episode 1 and 2 just because it like flips back over on
Right.
Netflix.
Yeah.
And Piper's sentence is only 15 months.
Yeah.
So like I forget what we were talking about, but it was like something with the passage of time, like, oh, how is this so long? Da da da. But like Daya has been pregnant and had a baby.
Yeah.
So 9 months.
Right.
And so I wonder how.
But Piper's sentence
Didn't
got
she get extended to
yeah.
36 months or
Yeah,
something?
it
I
got, like,
believe.
at some point.
Why did
Yeah.
hers get extended?
Did that
Because didn't Alex like
Yes. When they were doing that whole thing in the
Oh,
couple
and she
seasons
went.
ago, and they went on and
Yeah,
for
okay.
testimony, and
That makes sense.
Alex like
Alex was
that
able.
gave
Yeah.
her up
yeah.
or
Yeah,
whatever.
she got off,
and
and
that's why
then-
her and Alex weren't talking for a long
Yes,
time.
Yeah,
because
that's the
she
whole point.
Yeah.
got the longer sentence because she did
okay.
the truth and all that stuff, and ended up getting the longer sentence. So yeah, she's
Okay,
still
that
in there
makes
for
more
a
sense.
while. Yeah, yeah. Because originally she wasn't in there for very long.
Yeah.
But then she
And
got
then it got
the
extended, yeah.
exactly. So, yeah.
Brain fart.
No. I mean, it's no, because it's one of those things too where we've talked about this, where it's really hard to tell how much time has really elapsed in
Yeah.
the whole story.
They don't make it clear.
They don't,
really.
and then
What-
you get these backstories of people
Yeah.
and everything. So then you're even more like, I don't really know how long people like. I really don't know the timeline here. Like, how long has
Right.
this for the season? How long is the episode? These episodes equal? Because like you said, with Aleda getting out of prison, like how long ago was that now?
Yeah.
Like I don't know in the big scheme of things.
I
how,
know.
How,
She looks really well put together.
yeah,
though.
so I didn't know
Looks
how
nice.
much time has really elapsed and how much time it's really been since Daya had her baby
Yeah.
at this point, and how much time really people have been gone, and how long people were in Shu and Max, and so it's one of those things where it's kind of hard to tell the timeline specifically. But
I think
yeah.
that's what got me thinking about it was because we were wondering how long Sophia had actually been in
Right.
the shoe.
exactly.
But I assume it's been a while. They make
Right.
it seem like it's been a
They
good
do,
while.
but
anyway.
that's the thing. It's hard to know like each episode how long we've gone, because by the time we saw her again, we're like, "Wow, has that been months? Has that been weeks?" Because also we know that being put in solitary confinement can really mess your mind up relatively fast too when
Yeah.
you're put in those type of situations. So it wouldn't necessarily take that long, nor would it take a long time for someone like Nikki to get back into caught up in the drugs again and,
Right.
and other things, and it really wouldn't have been a long time. But I don't remember how long like Judy King's term was from last season. That was one thing I was wondering if people out there
okay.
remembered, because
Oh,
you know how
right.
she was basically she was released a bit early, but how long was her actual sentence for? And I don't remember.
I don't think it was for very long,
Yeah.
but they always from the beginning knew that she would like get
Right.
an early release.
Yeah, and then it was going to be relatively short, because that was the one I was going to try to figure out. Okay, here's the timeline, because it was basically that entire
Yeah.
season would have been equal to however months that was. But it feels like so much work to try to figure that out.
I know.
That was such
It's like a whole math thing. I need like an Excel spreadsheet
Yeah,
and like
I know.
put it in everybody's stuff.
I need
in
to
a formula.
rewatch everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
the interaction between Yoga Jones and Judy King,
Yeah.
I thought was kind of, I don't know, like Yoga Jones was being like, you should do something about this. You have a voice.
Yeah.
Like, tell them no one knows yet. But then again, Judy does have such a great platform to do that, of course. But then again, I also like kind of get where Judy was coming from. And she's like, I just want to get out of this
Right,
place.
and I
like,
want to
let
get
me
as far
do
away
that
as
first.
possible. And I can
Hey,
totally
maybe
understand
after
she
what
was.
happens at the end, she'll
Right.
choose
The
something.
savior.
Well, I
Yeah.
mean, and she's there though. You know what
She's
I
still
mean? So
there.
they can't fix the time
Right.
Yep.
of her departure and all that stuff.
Right,
Yeah.
which again is something else left up in the air until
Yeah.
next season. Is her exiting didn't actually happen at this moment before we we saw close the season. But
we talked last week about whether or not she was genuine when she was giving Poussey her information for after or whatever. But this episode, we did see that she was very shaken by, because this is her first time really seeing what actually goes down in the prison, because she's been isolated up in her little castle.
Yes, in her
but
little
now
pie,
she's like, oh shit, some crazy stuff happens here. You know what I mean? So I think that was definitely a reality check for her.
Absolutely. And I mean, you brought up a good point, because you saw that she really had this emotional moment there, and she was really like totally freaked out and wanted to get away. But it still begs the question, does she really know how to cook? It still goes back to that. Because I still think she was not, and I remember Jolene was here a couple episodes ago, and she thought the same thing.
Yeah.
But now we didn't really get a clear answer because we never really picked up on that.
But it's like there are too many other important things.
I still want to know that, though. I still want to know that.
We know she can make butter out of
She could do something with butter and
ingredients.
molten salt, but I want to see if she can really cook. And now
These
I feel
are the pressing questions.
Yes, I still feel like I was triggered off of that.
Can Judy cook?
Yeah.
Is she a fraud or not? But maybe we'll, maybe we'll still
Tell
find
us
out.
in the chat if you think she can or not.
Yes.
I know a lot of people, a lot of people agreed, but then a lot of people said no. Thought she could actually legitimately do her thing, and maybe, but
it leaves me
gotten
wondering.
any evidence.
Yeah.
Nope.
It leaves me wondering though if we'll see her next season, or if it'll just be one of those things that they kind of write off.
I certainly hope not, because I feel if they did that, it would be an injustice in the sense that they basically left us hanging right there. That it's almost like they now have to pick right up where they left off.
But kind of with
right
Bennett too, though. Like, we just know he went away. We don't know anything that's happened to him or what he's done.
Right.
Anything like that. So that's what I'm scared that they'll do that. But I really enjoyed Judy's character, so I hope.
I do too.
Yeah.
But I think the way they left it, they're gonna have to.
Like they did this season.
Yes,
I
like
really
they did this
liked
season.
how
I love how they
started
picked
this
it right up
season.
again where they left off, and,
Yeah.
and I feel like they have to do the same thing because of the way that they've left it.
Yeah.
It was just such
Courtney
an
Lovett-
interesting moment.
Courtney Lovett thinks that she can cook.
Oh,
Courtney. Thank you.
So does
Me too.
Positive thinking.
I know,
So
right?
does-
I'm like the
so
negative,
does
like, no, she can't. She's a fraud.
Darpaw 06.
Nice.
Darpaw 06 agrees.
All right,
All right, Scott.
fine, people.
We'll see.
Fine.
He's so mad right now.
Let's see.
Let's see. Let's see
Let's
what happens
see
next
who
season.
proves
Let's
who
see if she
wrong.
can cook her way out of that in the beginning of the season where she is right now.
Sounds like an episode of Chopped. I love that show.
I was gonna say, speaking of cooking, but not really cooking, after you're cooking all day and you're really exhausted, I think these ladies would agree too that they would love to have these type of mattresses.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like doing a little segue.
I knew it was going to be a nap. I'm
Yes.
like, a nap, yeah.
No, but I'm saying, like, I'm sure if MCC would approve a higher budget for new mattresses, that these ladies would definitely want the Casper
Oh, yes.
mattress.
Oh, yeah,
Because
who
let me tell you
wouldn't?
that Casper is a sleep brand that created one perfect mattress, sold it directly to consumers, eliminating the commission-driven inflated prices. Did you all know that?
No.
I did not
Tell
know
me more,
that.
actually.
I'll tell you more. All the Casper mattresses are made here locally in the U.S. of A.
Oh.
Yes, right here in the United States. Its award-winning sleep surface was developed in-house. It has a sleek design and is delivered in small, how did they do that, size box? It's pretty incredible. See, they could bring
How do
those
they
right
do
to
that?
MCC,
Yeah.
no problem. In addition to the mattress, Casper also offers an adaptive pillow and soft breathable sheets. The mattress industry has forced consumers into paying notoriously high markups. And Casper is revolutionizing the mattress industry by cutting the cost of dealing with resellers and showrooms and passing that savings directly on to the consumer. An in-house team of engineers spent thousands of hours developing the Casper because it combines the springy latex and supportive memory foams for a sleep surface that's got just the right sink and just the right bounce. Plus, its breathable design sleeps cool to help you regulate your temperature through the night. The mattresses can often cost well over $1,500, but Casper mattresses cost $500 for a twin-size mattress.
For that
Only
quality?
$600 for a twin extra large, $750 for a full, $850 for a queen, and only $950 for a king.
Sweet.
That's right. So buying a Casper mattress is completely risk-free. Casper offers free delivery and free returns with a 100-night home trial to the U.S. and Canada. If you don't love it, they'll pick it up and refund you everything. Casper understands the importance of truly sleeping on a mattress before you commit, especially considering you're going to spend a third of your life in it. Very true. Time magazine named it one of the best inventions of 2015. In fact, it's now the most awarded mattress of the decade. You can get a $50 towards any mattress purchase right now by visiting www.casper.com/AfterBuzz and using the AfterBuzz promo code all caps, terms and conditions apply. So
Cool.
that
Sweet.
is definitely an awesome
Something
thing.
to look into for sure.
No, I'm actually moving later this month, and
Oh, that might
I
be
think
helpful.
it was actually good timing for me. And again, maybe next year they can add it to the budget there at MCC from Linda from Purchasing.
Yeah, we'll make
Linda.
a request.
She will
Once,
hate that.
once they get a new budget line, maybe they can add a great Casper mattress to that. All the ladies really would be happy.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know, get some
True.
new mattresses and get some quality tampons, and then
There
you're
you
set.
Perfect.
That's all you need, right? That's all the women need in the prison. Besides that, and some good.
Besides, like, just some
Food
good guards
and
and,
stuff,
like,
you know.
food and, you know.
Well, yeah,
That's
that's
non-essentials.
No, that they can keep having the pre-packaged slop that they've been getting, right?
Exactly. No big deal.
Cut the scissors with a plastic bag and just pour it into a big pot.
Some of the stuff kind of looks good though.
Some of the stuff,
Yeah.
yeah.
Sometimes it reminds me of like cafeteria food in elementary
Yeah.
school.
No, it totally does. That's what I think about the cafeteria. I can just imagine being there and like waiting in line and.
Stop sign pizza.
Yeah.
Gotta have that.
Oh, yeah.
We have that.
Stop sign pizza.
Anyway.
We're just going off off the rails here. But yeah, so we were before we took that little break there, we were talking about the whole stuff with Caputo and Piscatella. I'm wondering what's going to happen with him, you know, with Piscatella, because he basically left for the weekend. That was when I was kind of worried about that we would pick up and somehow we wouldn't really get an answer to him, that he would just sort of either quit or leave because now he's afraid that whatever skeletons were in his closet that Caputo said, that we wouldn't get a really good resolution with him. I don't know. What do you think? Do you think we'll actually get to see him as well and get some closure? And you kind of want that villain. You know, it was kind of the first time that I felt like out of the whole run of the series that the villain was actually supposed to be the good
Protector.
people,
Right.
and they were the villains this year.
I couldn't help but think about, so when they were targeting Bailey,
Yeah.
and then also at the end when Daya had the gun up to Humps, I couldn't help but think about Maria saying you need to take out the top, like, you know what I mean,
Yeah,
take out the top. So
exactly.
I wanted that to be
Yeah.
Piscatella taking the heat for all of that, and I
Yeah.
wanted him to be on the other side of that gun.
Well,
you know what I mean?
That's why I was
So it
worried
was-
is if we're not going to get the satisfaction of that because he's going to run off.
Well,
and,
so what I'm hoping is that since Caputo's protecting Bailey, and he said that he was a victim of circumstance, and he was doing what he was told, I'm hoping that that comes back to what Piscatella was saying. You
Yeah.
know, what Piscatella was making them do.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that he takes the heat for everything.
yeah, I hope so, but
But that's obviously not what.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I was just nervous because it felt like a convenient way for him to to exit without really getting the satisfaction of being able to have him. I don't want to say
But
punished.
Humphrey,
but-
if anyone has to go, it should
Oh,
definitely
he
be
totally
Humphrey.
Oh, I would
does.
say the same.
Because
yeah.
he's more violent.
He's
done
also the
worse.
crazy, disgusting.
I mean, he comes up with these horrible
well,
situations.
he has to, and I think we definitely need resolution for him
Yeah.
because his character is so bad that we would not be able to justify letting him go. Whereas
Yeah.
it would be easier, like you
Kill
said,
him.
to see Piscatella kind of get off. It would be unsatisfactory to see him leave and not have any punishment, but at the same time, it'd be easier to get him out of the prison environment and move on without a resolution, as it would with Humps. He definitely has to pay
And I
the
mean,
price.
and Humps went into the prison that day with the intention
Yeah.
of using that gun.
Absolutely.
If he
Yeah.
needed to.
If he
So,
needed
I
to,
mean,
absolutely.
If Daya
Absolutely.
shoots him, that's cool.
Like nobody's gonna be upset
They're
about
all
that
gonna
one.
protect him though. No one's
Yeah.
ever gonna say he brought a gun in. They're gonna say she got it somehow.
Was it Maritza that pushed him that made his gun fly?
Yeah.
I think it was.
Yes.
I
She
went
pushed him.
back.
Yeah.
I went back
Yeah.
and like watched it a
Which is
couple
good.
times.
Yeah.
And I was like, yes, Maritza, good girl.
She needs to-
Because I mean, he
What he
put
did
her
to her.
through
He
a
put it through a
lot.
lot. Exactly. Yeah. That I actually we'll get to it in a second. Just the way it was shot and everything was just
Oh my
really
God,
awesome
I know.
too. Just
I
the
love
way it
that
came
shot.
out.
Courtney Lovett on chat just brought up a good point. She said, as bad as Hump says, I hope Daya doesn't shoot him. I don't want her to get in trouble, which I agree. I wouldn't.
But
want
she
her to
has a
get-
baby to keep.
Yeah, I
in
wouldn't want
mind.
her sentence to get.
And her mom's out, and it'd be
Yeah.
And
great.
her mom's.
her
But
to
maybe
get
that
out.
might tie the plots together because she has been out of the.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So who knows?
I think someone's gonna like knock her out of the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just and be like, holy crap, this is actually happening, and just. But I don't think it's gonna be a cop or a CO. I think it'll be one of the women. I don't know why.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
That's
Oh, to
prediction,
stop
I
her
know,
from
but-
not doing it.
Yeah.
It'll probably be. Where is Gloria?
She's right there. She's
Okay,
right
so
at the
it'll probably
front.
be
Right.
Gloria.
So
I
Gloria
think-
was like looking at her like kind of like smirking.
Yeah.
Oh,
Kind of
really?
proud of her. I saw a shot of that and I was like,
I think it's like in the shock of the moment right now that everyone's just like, holy crap, this is happening.
be
And then I
Piper.
think it'll like it'll kind of snap in her as soon as they realize, like, oh, you're holding a gun at this man's head.
Yeah.
I don't think Daya would do it anyway.
Yeah.
I think she was just kind of, because she seemed kind of level-headed, oddly.
Yeah, I think it
you know
was
what
her.
I mean?
Right.
Like, she
So it's
seemed
like-
very confident. She wasn't like,
But she
Yeah.
twisted that gun quick.
I was like,
Yeah,
she
I know.
Like, you know when they
done
turn it to the
that
side, it's
before.
real.
Yeah, right? Exactly.
Yeah.
There's like they're not messing around
I was like,
anymore.
wow, I didn't know she had done that
I
before.
know.
Jesus.
She looks like
She's a
had.
badass.
Yeah.
But that whole scene we'll get to, because I still also wanted to talk about, just Bailey kind of dealing with everything afterwards.
yeah.
and
Yeah.
having to take that Valium and just.
What
he
about
was like a hot
Dixon's little
mess.
talk?
Oh my
pep
god,
talk
that
of
was
sorts?
awful. That's what I was saying too,
That
like about
was
him driving him
awful.
home and.
Yeah, and he was like, in
Yeah.
the war, I killed a
Yeah.
lot of innocent people,
Yeah.
and just like even like the civilians, like
Yeah.
the little boys that he was
Yeah.
talking about.
And
It's like, you get over
You'll
it.
get over it. You
Yeah.
can't let this little thing like F up your
But do you
long
think
life. And I was like, oh, geez.
Do you think some veterans think like that though?
Well, I think they kind of have to, like,
I think
train
some people have to.
themselves.
Well, war is a different thing than this situation.
No,
but yes,
I mean,
I
there's a
do
difference
think
between
that.
having
But
post
I do think so,
PTSD.
as a way to kind of deal with that, because how horrible is that? Something they're having to deal with.
Yeah,
on a
sometimes you
daily
can turn
struggle.
totally negatively
Right.
about things.
Right, and just
so.
trying to just get through it.
I mean, his a little bit like
carrying that with you.
I think he's also just a shitty
exaggerated.
person.
Yeah,
And
and
he's a
his,
shitty person.
his was
for
definitely
sure, but-
different than
but-
just like
A normal
knowing that you're
veteran.
killing an innocent
Right.
person for war. Like
For
his
war.
was like, oh, sometimes we would just like
But
kill
that-
the women
Right.
because we
Yeah,
got, like
rape
you
the
rape
woman.
them
Oh, no,
and
he
kill
was
them
hor-
so
he
that they
was-
don't say anything.
That
Like,
was
that's
horrible.
obviously different than like
Uh-huh.
killing
right.
a soldier.
And I was saying like that there are some coping mechanisms I'm sure some people have to try to employ there, which could be something like that to carry that. But yeah, he was just a total jerk. I mean,
Yeah,
just that
for
whole
sure.
thing and that whole pep talk was awful.
But what's Bailey didn't even know at first that he had killed her. Because
Yeah.
who was it? Was it Caputo that walked up to him or whoever, and he had to ask, like, is she okay?
Is she gonna be okay?
Is she gonna be
Yeah.
okay? Yeah. Well, it's almost to a point where I think, I don't want to say blackout, because that's sort of obviously what he did to her, but in a sense
Right.
where you're just
He's in shock.
so
Yeah.
in shock that
Yeah.
you don't
I think
comprehend
Bailey's-
what happened. And
Well, and you never think, oh, I probably just
right,
killed that
you
person.
thought, oh, she's okay, like she's
Yeah.
gonna be fine, like you wouldn't think it
it's
would be
like-
that extreme.
I mean,
so
yeah, and part of me doesn't want him to go down for, like, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? You know what I mean? Like, I want Piscatella to go down for it.
right, absolutely, because he is a good but flawed kid, but he's a good kid overall, and he wants to do good. It's
Yeah.
not like he's
It just kind
purposely
of goes
being a
back to the whole thing.
crappy-
Like, these women are good people,
Right, of course.
but
Right,
they're
I know.
still in their
No,
position.
But
absolutely.
she
You know what I
still
mean?
died.
So it's like
Absolutely.
you don't want him to.
But you don't
get
want
off.
him as sort of that thing about when you talk about someone being murdered and then the murderer also's life is ruined. Obviously, that's different because they purposely did that. But
Yeah.
you don't necessarily want his life now ruined for something that was an accident in the.
Well, that's what's so bad about it is because we know, like, as viewers,
Right.
that it genuinely is
Right.
an accident. But
Right.
then at the same time, she still died. So, like,
Right.
what? It's
Where do
just
you-
nothing
Yeah.
happens? No,
No, of
nothing
course.
can't happen.
Right.
But,
But how do you
exactly.
do that in an accident to where he's still, something happens, but yet his entire life is not ruined, and that he's able to hopefully be able to move forward without.
Yeah.
I see
Effing
him
up his
quitting.
life, too.
I don't know why.
Yeah.
It seemed like they were building up to him just being so overwhelmed, and that was his tipping point. Because
Mhm.
Caputo warned him a couple episodes
Right.
back, "This will break you."
This will break you.
'Cause
Yeah.
He couldn't maybe.
I
be
don't know
written
why
off.
he'd want to go back.
No, I don't think he'd
Yeah,
want to go back
after
either.
all of that, unless he
And-
wants to redeem something.
No, I mean,
himself,
and
but-
you kind of could see that too. It was just so, just his whole body language and everything when he was walking down the hall when Piper
Yeah.
came up to him, and he was just a mess. Of course, I was like, I wrote down here, I'm like, he's a hot mess, but of course he's
Yeah.
on Valium and he's
Right.
still in shock and everything. But it was definitely, it's something that can he rebound from this, even if he
Yeah.
doesn't get punished in the traditional sense. It's something he can come back from.
Well, like Dixon, the part of his speech to him that, I mean, it was terrible, but it like made sense and made me feel bad for him with he was like, the dreams are gonna be terrible, and like
Right.
it just makes you realize like he's gonna be affected by this the rest of his life for an accident. So
Right.
that's where it really does come off like, oh, I mean, how do you handle a situation like if I accidentally kill you? Like, am
I
I
knew where that
gonna?
was going, and I was
I
like,
know.
Like, am I gonna get in trouble? Like accidents do happen, but so that's where it's like,
Right.
we always talk about how it's very relevant to what is going
Right.
on in real life,
Mhm.
but this is different in the sense of the stuff that's actually gone on recently in the United States. But I don't know. It makes me, that's where I kind of went with Caputo in the sense of like, well, what does he do? Like, it was an accident, but then he also, you know, he needs to say that this innocent girl died. I don't know. It's just, it confuses my brain.
It is a lot to deal with because you don't want to take it lightly as far as real life things where this could very easily happen and has happened in the past, to where how the punishment or how do you feel like it's meted out in a way to where it feels like now,
like justice. Like,
right,
she
like,
did
what
die.
did
Someone did die.
And what's going to happen, because you also imagine like MCC, all the Josh and all the spin people were saying, oh, you know, the lawsuits, because you can imagine also telling her father, and again, like what's going to happen to them, and not that they shouldn't be sued, but at the same time, there's other repercussions that are going to happen that I can imagine would be happening because of this incident too.
Well, it's like if they knew the whole backstory, like if they could definitely sue them if they knew what was happening, like why the women were doing what they were doing and the way that the men were taking them down, which, you know, Bailey like holding her because he thought she was going, you know, trying to get at someone else, that's different. But it's like, if they knew that, then okay, sure, the family could do something, but they don't even know all of that information. They'll probably never know.
Right.
And the problem, it's just that he said, she said, literally, the guards versus all the prisoners, and they're all, the system's only going to believe the people in power,
which
obviously.
is the sad thing.
Do they not have security cameras in this place?
Right.
Like, every time something happens, they never know. I feel like there's got to be some sort of cameras.
Yeah.
I know, it seems like something, especially now when they're so ubiquitous, there'd be cameras everywhere.
Yeah, Caputo's always like, what the hell happened? It's like, go to your freaking security cameras. What the hell?
Yeah.
Take a look. Yeah.
Yeah, it was just...
And how did Caputo know it was a peaceful protest? Because Piscatella certainly didn't tell him that.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
That's a good point. I think I'm just guessing from what was going on before, that he was taking the other protests that have been going on, that it was,
because the word went around that they were going to do a protest.
Right, and that I think just from what
probably
the
from Tasty
women have
Yeah.
done.
Yeah, he probably knew from Tasty.
It was probably like an overwhelming amount of people being like, oh, this was, because if just like these 5 or 6, however many guards are like, no, they were going crazy, but every other person in the place says that it was peaceful, then.
Yep. Wanted to talk about Coates a little bit too, because that was another one we were talking about. You know, how he basically, you know, the Pennsatucky's basically forgiven him, and I don't know how you feel about that. Still, it's still really hard for me that she's kind of forgiven him and letting him, I don't want to say get away with it, but it's also a really tough thing too to.
This episode showed that, because we were always like, well, if he just has this like weird conception. He's like, if he likes her, he can be this aggressive with her.
Right.
Yeah.
And even though he's like apologized and trying to make it up to her, but whenever she kissed him in this episode and he just switched like that, like that's obviously a personality flaw that he is dealing with. But that was scary. I thought he was about to do it again.
I did too.
But he knows
it's like
too
out
that
of
he
his
does that.
control or something.
Right.
It's weird.
It is weird.
It's really
it's a
weird.
huge flaw that I think Pennsatucky's starting to realize,
Yeah.
and maybe she might really like him enough to maybe forgive him.
Yeah.
For that. And the fact, I don't know.
I don't
I
think
know
she
if it's
should.
good.
I don't
think she should
but
either.
the
She needs to
fact
be
that
away
he
from
stopped
that.
himself, though, did show a sign of control. But you never know in the future that he could lose control again.
Right.
Well, there's one thing about like, okay, I'm a little like rough in the bedroom, but that's, he literally like switches like his mind.
Yeah.
And he does, it almost seems like he doesn't really know what he's doing.
Yeah.
Right.
But then, like you said, he was able to kind of reel it back in. But the only part that it did scare me, like, because I thought he was just gonna go for it. And the way he said whatever he said was just weird. I can't remember his wordage exactly, but I did like that he is like, I don't want to put myself in that situation with you, because
Never
then
again,
like it can go there. And if that's a part of, you know, like his personality or how he's wired, then that's, I mean, that's how he's made, even though that's like terrible. But if you have, you know, people can't help if they're like schizophrenic or whatever. Not to say that he's that, but
there's some imbalance.
He definitely has like a mental imbalance
Yeah.
of some sort.
Yeah,
That it's
sexual
it's definitely a
thing that he
unique
has to-
situation.
yeah.
to deal, but he should be dealing with that.
Right. That he should leave the prison.
Which is
Absolutely.
why he
Go
wants
which is
to
why I
quit,
think
I
he says he
think.
wants to quit.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And I think he does have to remove. He should for her sake
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
for his and be treated. I don't want to say it's sexual addiction, but it's in that realm of having an issue with that to where it's not healthy and he needs to.
It's a dominant submissive situation.
Yeah, but it's
and not in a 50 Shades of Grey way, but
it was
not
so
in
mature of
fun,
her
cute
to
way.
move on the way she did, like by forgiving him.
I think that was
But
amazing.
I mean, to see how far Pennsatucky has come over the past 4 seasons is just, I would have never guessed.
Her transformation is great.
I think the biggest out of
is one of
everybody.
the best, I think,
The best.
ever in
That's
TV.
what I'm saying of
Like,
yeah.
Actually.
But especially out of these group of women, hers is definitely the most profound. That you could find anyone else who's gone from one extreme to another in such a positive way. And it's something I never would have guessed from her from the first couple of seasons. Like, wow.
I like that how they ended this situation. It was one of the storylines that they did put a pretty little bow on, even though we don't see him like quitting.
No, we don't.
I wouldn't be surprised if we never saw him again at the same time either. So it is one of those storylines that, like, okay, let's give you some closure, and you've been wondering if this guy was actually good, maybe not.
Right.
So I'm happy how they ended that for sure.
And just my final thought on that is, she did forgive him, and she was like, I'm forgiving him for my sanity. And then when she, at that last scene there, when she was like, okay, well, maybe that was a one-time thing, and maybe he really does like me, and or it wants to be with me, whatever. But then when they kissed and that happened, she was like, okay, well, then maybe you should leave.
Yeah, she's
you know what I mean? Like, that's obviously something that you need to deal with.
That you need to deal with.
I don't know if I would have ever guessed her to recognize that.
Right, I agree. That's what I'm saying. That's part of that growth. But I think it was good because now we have, like you said, a resolution there, knowing that, okay, he has issues that he needs to deal with. She's forgiven him for her own, to be able to move on fully. So I think that was a good way of kind of ending it. And I wouldn't, like you said, I wouldn't have been too upset if I didn't see him come back.
Yeah, I don't need to see him ever again.
No,
Why not?
That was good.
But bring back Bennett. We'd like to see him.
I just wonder if he's not on there because he's doing so much other stuff
I think
right
it's
now.
How to Get Away with Murder. He was really busy with that. They also.
But no, I need him back.
But now it's enough. Enough is enough.
No, but are there any other...
There's Nikki and Lorna.
Nikki and
they also had a lot of... They had an opening. I mean, they had to kind of kill each other first, but before that, after that, they kind of...
Yeah, before
Lorna opened up to Nikki finally.
I was going to say, it was really good. It was really good to see Lorna actually admit to what she's doing, because when she gets in that cycle of kind of going crazy and obsessive, she doesn't, I don't think she realizes it. But then she's like, I can see myself doing it again. And I think for her to vocalize that is good.
Yeah. Because otherwise it's just going to be the same.
The same. And it's sort of the same thing, like she'll never get out of that. So we want to see our characters grow. And if she can't get out of that, she's kind of stuck in that.
And saying it out loud to where someone else knows it.
And can kind of hold her accountable in that sense.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The difference is she's married this time. So like there's actual
she's legit
paperwork.
married. Yeah, exactly.
There is, like,
There's
he knows she exists.
There's not a fake thing. Although I still want to know what's going on with him. And I
know.
think, that's all weird too. And we have to kind of figure that stuff out. Of course, we had that little one-off there with not one-off totally, but Angie and Leanne, because of So-So, which I also wanted to talk a little bit about her kind of dealing with being the widow in a way in the prison, and dealing with that and going to find the hooch that Poussey kept in the back there and buried, and so she gets a little.
What about Norma
drunk.
Singing?
Oh, gosh.
Yes, and she was singing so beautifully.
Yeah.
Really beautiful.
And we never even hear her talk.
Well,
we heard her sing
a
long time ago.
The Christmas pageant. So it's like one of those things where we know she could sing beautifully. It's one of those things where, and I forget what that's called, where people can't talk but they can sing, or sort of certain things like that. It is a thing, but
I didn't know that.
There is some, and I forget what it's called, and I'm sure someone out there will be super smart and be able to say
what
that.
It is.
I don't want to say it's syndrome, but there are people, it's like those things where, wow, they can't speak, or, people that stutter or can come up and have these amazing, beautiful singing voices, things like that. But it was gives me chills even her just like holding So-So and rocking her and singing a beautiful song and that. And it was great for her to have that moment too.
Yeah. And then So-So finds the hooch
in the buried in the backyard, and
but still saves Suzanne.
But still manages to save Suzanne.
And she's reunited with Caputo.
Oh my God. Yeah, but luckily we didn't have any more incidents, because then I got nervous because I was like, what if that isn't the only death, Poussey? What if there's something else at the end of this episode before we go into the season finale?
That would be too dark.
It would be, but I thought I wouldn't have been totally surprised if they did do something like that. And I thought, oh no, don't let or something happen when the bookshelf fell. And Suzanne was like, oh, I don't want there to be any like permanent.
Yeah. Seeing
injury type thing.
Caputo's injuries though, that was
Yeah.
She beat
brutal. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh.
Yeah, that was
hard to watch.
That was
actually.
very hard to watch. That whole. And again, there's still more stuff that we need as well for resolution. It's like, ugh. That was crazy. But watching So, obviously kind of deal with that. And of course, then Leanne and Angie like, oh, where there's drunk, there's drink.
That's right.
And they killed the time machine.
Yeah.
You guys think it was bad luck?
Which maybe I'm
Maybe
like,
it
hey,
was.
it probably
Yeah.
was
Maybe it
good.
was.
There was
Maybe it
a lot of bad juju with that,
Yeah.
between everybody that had gone in there. So there definitely needed to happen. So that was probably a good cause.
Yeah, maybe just clean up the past a little bit. That's always healthy for
exactly.
everybody.
Like get a fresh start. And then of course if I'm not forgetting anything else that was major, we just have that closing scene, which was just incredible. I thought just beautifully shot, and
my
just
God.
the way
Yeah,
everyone comes from every
shot.
direction and they meet in the hallway there. It was pretty great.
Yeah.
Everyone came
intense.
together under one cause, one fight. It doesn't
Right.
matter who picked up the gun. They all kind of stood for each other,
Yes.
which I really love.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was intense. So what I was gonna say before we wrap up, there were just a couple other things that we didn't. Obviously, we don't get a clean resolution with that, with Piscatella, like we were talking about with Bennett, with really
With
the whole,
Healy, too.
With Healy.
Yeah.
Healy.
He should
because
be
Healy's
there. He's not. He's. I don't think
Yeah,
he's
I mean,
gonna,
we have that.
he's
coloring
gonna
a
go
book.
crazy.
Yeah, he is. He
or-
sort of is kind of going crazy too. But also we have with Lolly too in the psych ward. We're like, where's that going to be left? Sister's still in Chew.
Sister,
Right.
yes.
And Sophia, I think there was.
Sophia,
there's
she
still
got
stuff.
made fun of, so
Ooh.
that could lead to the next.
Sorry
Yeah.
to interrupt, but Courtney in chat says what you guys are thinking of I believe Broca's aphasia. So maybe that's
Courtney,
Yes,
you're
Enormous
on point with
syndrome.
everything.
Yeah, thank
I
you very
know,
much,
right?
Courtney.
We're gonna have you in next season.
Yes, absolutely. And obviously Bennett, like we were talking about, and there's just so much there that really wasn't tied up. And I know I'm missing other things, but we have to wrap up in a second. But are there any other things that you felt weren't completely?
Bring back Bennett.
Yeah,
obviously.
I think the only other thing that I thought of when Alex and Piper were burning all the little letters that Alex was leaving around the prison that said Aiden was his name or whatever.
Yeah. Because the body.
Which I thought was interesting. Yeah.
We never got really any super punishment except for Lolly going off to psych, but it still feels like that was sort of left.
That storyline was left very open.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. But then also when the kind of chaos was happening and they got kind of almost trampled by the people running through the hallway, but they were burning the letters and
and
that
those
trash
trash
can
can.
fell over.
Yeah.
So in my house, I was like, oh my God, the prison's
gonna
gonna
be-
go
I know,
down.
I
Go
thought
with
the
that
same
burn
thing.
down.
Sure.
Yeah.
See,
Yeah.
and that might break up what's going on with
Yeah.
Daya right now at the
That's
prison.
true.
Yeah.
Starts going up flames. And of course, obviously, we have Sophia. We have all that. That's
Also,
not
we're
resolved
Crystal's
the
not
lawsuit.
going to give up, and then we've got
Yeah.
the blog.
Yep. Yeah, Danny's blog.
And where's Chang?
Yep. Yes.
I literally
I know,
was
I
like,
haven't seen
wait,
her in a
I
couple
saw her the first
episodes.
episode.
Yeah.
She is not
Uh,
reappear. There's so many characters that are like
there's
missing.
so much stuff
hopefully
going on
people
and
reappear.
so many things that have to happen for next
Type in the
season.
chat.
Yeah.
For the last time this season, though, before we go, we'll be back. God, next year.
Oh my
It's
God,
crazy.
it's
Where
weird.
can they?
That's
Where can I
crazy.
know? 2017. Where can they find you all in the interim?
Y'all can find me everywhere at April Whisenhant.
And you can find me at Sterling Cates.
And you can follow me at Kanika Lal.
And I am on Twitter at SMN80. That's SMN80. And until next season, thank you all for being here for this entire run of Orange is the New Black. It's been great having everyone's feedback this season, and we're very appreciative of it all. Until next year.
Bye.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
See you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.